You don't have to take a class to be one. There are no final exams. It's a full-time job, and then some. It pays less than minimum wage, and it can provide the greatest rewards in life. So let's talk about parenting with Shirley Smith.
I'm Shirley Smith, and this is Talk About Parenting. And today we're talking about the environment that you need to provide your children that helps them to be creative. We're quite honored today to have as our guest Octavia Butler, who has published 12 books. She's a science fiction writer. She is the winner of the MacArthur Award. And we're going to talk to Octavia today to find out what it was about her childhood that allowed this creative spirit to develop. Welcome, Octavia.
Thank you.
So when you were a little girl, you were creative, or you didn't know you were creative, or what was it about your childhood that helped you?
I was alone, and I didn't really think of this as a help at the time. I was lonely, and I made up stories to kind of keep myself company. I was also an only child, so I never really learned to be as social as most kids were. And kids punish you for this kind of thing, so that even when I wasn't alone, when I was around other kids, I still managed to be an outsider. So I guess my writing is at least partly something grown out of alienation.
Did your family, were they like concerned about this and they wanted to break that chain and get you not to be alone, for you to stop daydreaming?
Not exactly. They wanted me to be a lot more social, but their way of, well, I mean, my family, my mother's family, really, her sisters and brothers and herself and my cousins. And unfortunately, when people don't really know how a kid should be socialized, ridicule is often assumed to be a teaching tool. And being told, don't be so backward, is not a good way to teach a kid to not be shy. So it didn't do any good. And I wound up doing a lot of reading. I was often the one in the corner with the book. And by the time I was 10 years old, I was writing. And fortunately, no one discouraged me from doing this. It kept me out of trouble. You know, I wasn't out shoplifting or anything. I was in my room with a book. So it worked out.
When your family found that you were writing, was there anything that they did with that, or what did you do with your writings?
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that I think might have really helped get me going in the writing long before I wrote. My mother read to me, and I think that was especially nice because she read stories, and this was after working all day, and because she was a widow. And after a while, I began to really want these stories at night, and she realized I was hooked. And she said, well, you're learning to read, now you read the stories. And obviously this is not as satisfying as having someone else read them to you, but that's when I began reading a lot and realizing that stories were an awful lot of fun. And when I was 4 years old, I began telling myself stories.